Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Gibby reps NJ. We're the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? Is real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show. Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to yapping.
What is up, everyone? Matt Ibanez here, a.k.a. Ibby. Till Mets Do Us Part, checking in with you live on a Wednesday at around about 5:30, 5:34 Eastern Standard Time. And the room, it is packed. It is getting bigger and bigger by the minute. We are already up to 350 people because it is clear as day that we are all on a specific watch. We are on Kyle Tucker watch, and it's an exciting time for Mets fans. Maybe a little bit of a scary time for Mets fans as well. But I'm here with you, going to rock with you as long as I possibly can. Hopefully some news breaks while we are live. That'd be awesome. We have been waiting for some fun things to happen during the offseason, and this would be ultimate, cherry on top for the show if we can get some news to break. So, Steve, David, if you're listening, which I know you probably are, some news would be great to break at this time. But before we get into everything, we have a fantastic guest today. I'm going to intro him in a moment, but I want to shout out to the chat, as always. Thank you for joining me. And again, I want to say one thing real quick. It's always difficult to get to everything when it comes to the chat when I'm riding solo. So if I happen to miss something, if I don't start things off, I apologize, which probably makes comment of the day a little bit more difficult this week. But as you can see, I am solo for a reason. John had an emergency, was unable to join us. He's very sorry he wasn't able to. There's something that happened last minute. Everything's okay for now. Hopefully things continue to be that way. We hope for the best. We're sending all the best. Hopefully we can hear from him relatively soon. But no matter what, he will be back next week. All that being said, shout out to the chat. Thank you so much for being here. 566 are here already, which is a crazy number because we haven't jumped that high in a long time, and I appreciate it. But you know what? That probably also has to do with our guest for the day. You all know who he is. Play-by-play voice for the New York Mets on radio, SNY contributor, the one, the only, Mr. Keith Raad. Keith, how are you, man?
Good. I feel like everybody wants it to be, hey, Kyle Tucker's joining us to announce that he's the newest New York Met, but I guess I'll be plan B for now. But we are all on Kyle Tucker watch. It's good to see you, Matt.
Thank you so much for being here, Keith. I really appreciate it. We've been trying to get this for a little bit, and I know we had some conversation at the QBC a while back, exchanged some information. I know John got in contact with you to set this up, which is awesome. First time guest on the show. Hopefully not the only time. Hopefully we can get you back again. But let's have some fun as we tend to do on this show. But I'm going to start you off with not so much a loaded question, but one that has been clearly on the minds of Mets fans before we get into all the Kyle Tucker stuff and all that stuff. It's the offseason in general. Now, you have obviously close ties with this team. You've been around this team. The overall vibes of the offseason have been very up and down, very much in question by this fan base. What were your initial feelings once everything came out? Like, we're moving past Nimmo, we're moving past Alonso, we lose out on Diaz, the overall changing of this team. What were your initial thoughts when you realized that David Stearns was really tearing this thing apart?
Truly, like when we got on the bus to fly back home from Miami, there's a little murmur, there's some whispers. Every year when a season ends disappointing, you go, well, they're not going to run it back. There's going to be some changes, and that's all kind of blowing smoke. But this year, you could kind of tell that there was something big that was going to happen. I don't know this for sure, but it felt like the coaches were fired like before the plane landed. Got back to New York, like it was happening here and now. So I anticipated some change. The Pete Alonso thing to me, I know there are many players that are now gone. Evan Diaz, Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil. The Pete Alonso thing to me, he was never going to be brought back by this administration. I think I felt that last year. I think a lot of fans might have felt that. Didn't want to admit that they felt that, but felt that way. So the funny thing is about all these moves individually in a vacuum, you can kind of stomach in a sense. Okay, Pete, not bringing him back. Brandon Nimmo, I can't believe they got him to waive his no trade clause. Not a perfect player, not a perfect contract. Okay, you move on from him. Edwin Diaz getting a little bit older, getting a little bit pricey. That one they may want to have back. And then Jeff McNeil, right? It wasn't really jiving with the way Jeff was playing. He was not a batting title champion that we saw years ago. So I'm in a spot where I'm not shocked that all these changes have happened. I certainly get the fan base can't believe it either. I don't know whose jersey is left hanging up in the team store, right? Outside like Lindor and Soto. But I like if you believe in something the way David Stearns does, I believe in massive action instead of half measures. And wow, is this a massive piece of action? It may work out great. This could be the best offseason the Mets have ever had and set them up. Or it could be, as many people are thinking now, their worst nightmare, which I tend not to think is the way it's going to be, but we shall see. It's not over yet. It's only January 14th.
That's been the vibe for us over here as well. We keep on telling people like it's very much an incomplete offseason to this point because we keep on saying like there's a lot of holes. There's room on the 40. The 26 man is nowhere near full. We only have I think we have 4 outfielders on the 40, 2 outfielders really when it comes to this 26 right now. And I'm not even including the likes of someone like Jared Young. You're not counting Nick Morabito. Like there's a lot that still has to be done. So when people automatically assume that this team isn't going to do anything, I'm like, well, I understand you're upset, but that's not exactly how this is going to work because it can't. They need players. And I'm with you because a lot of people didn't like when I was saying on the show how Pete Alonso was not going to be back. I said at the moment he signed last year, I had mentioned, I go, guys, enjoy this year because for how long this went on, I said there's no way that Stearns and Cohen are going to do this dance all over again as he's a year older. So enjoy the year. He'll put up his numbers with Soto, but I think after that it's over. So I came into this offseason expecting Pete to be gone. Now, we talked a lot about, and you can comment on this as well, like we talked a lot about change and how do you create change? And everyone kept on saying, well, no, you bring Pete back, you bring Diaz back, you have these other pieces. It's like, well, what kind of change are you truly creating? Everyone always says, oh, get rid of Jeff McNeil. It's like, well, that's not change. That's a small thing that's a part of the team. So when they dealt Nimmo, I was like, oh, okay, like this is something different. Like this is a way that you can elect actual change. And then I said on the show also, like, if you get rid of Diaz and you get rid of Alonso as well, well, now you clearly have some guts. You're ready for the backlash, but at the same time, you have a plan. And we still haven't seen said plan truly come to fruition yet because these spots haven't been filled fully. Polanco fits in, can replace Nimmo's production. You get Devin Williams, tough shoes to fill. We all agree on that one, tough shoes to fill. But in general, it's a very interesting approach, but again, far from over.
Far from over. And certainly, I think the way that it's happened, right, the timing of it all, front-loaded, right? I actually think maybe at the turn of the calendar into January, maybe some Mets fans are kind of, okay, all right, it's not the end of the world. There's still time, right? The shock value was there, right? Nimmo traded. Pete not coming back. The winter meetings were a disaster for the Mets for PR purposes. I know they said, hey, we signed Devin Williams, but it was not a fun time for the Mets.
Right.
They knew that. But it's not as if, like you're saying, David Stearns checks his phone and go, wait a minute, Alonso, we're not bringing him back? What's our plan? Like, he's not only mapping the 26 team, he's mapping the 2017 and the 2018 and the 2019 and the free agents that'll pop up and who might be heading into their free agent year elsewhere, other places. So again, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. The problem is it's behind the scenes and everybody wants to know, media and fans want to know what the heck is the plan. But now this Tucker smoke is really, really big, very serious. And there are obviously other moves that they're going to have to make. They knew that. But if they do make those moves, which I know they will, whatever they are, all of a sudden they will be a team that is a different look, a different identity. And that is the change I think that they want to put forth is we're going to win. It'll be a little bit different than the way we have won, but that's what change is. And we think it'll be better for us. This is obviously David Stern speaking in the near term and the future.
Yeah, I think that, people are so afraid of change. And I had said before, when the offseason started, I thought that if change was truly going to happen, that some Mets fans were going to have a hard time with it because I don't think you're going to get your answer right away. And when you don't get your answer right away, that brings forth fear, which I think a lot of fans have because they're like, well, you're getting rid of these specific stats. So what am I getting to replace it? People keep on coming back and harping on how are we replacing home runs? How are we replacing these RBIs? Pete's a leader. Pete was this. Pete was the all-time franchise home run king. Like all these things, but there's different ways to go about winning, and I think that for a franchise really that has tried something for a while with said players and it didn't bring the results, like I don't know why a fan base wants to continue doubling and tripling down on the same thing. Now that's not me saying that these guys are the reason why they lost, but at the same time, during the opportunities for potential winning, it also didn't stem the overall results that this fan base ultimately wants. Win 100 games, get bounced in the first round, have a rough 23, you have a crazy 24, you fall short, 25 becomes an extremely frustrating year, and obviously you end up failing. So there's a lot of things, and I've always said, when David Stearns comes into it, like you have the pieces, you want to try to supplement. You want to try to get it to work with all these fan favorites. And he did try, and it didn't work. And I think now that's why you're seeing this offseason where he's truly got his fingerprints all over it. And he's going to try to bring forth a different way of winning ball games with defense, better defense, as he just spoke about recently, which we're going to get into in a moment because I know you were there. Like talking about bettering the defense, talking about how that was a point that he felt the league as a whole picked up on against the Mets and why they took advantage of certain things because they said that the Mets can't play defense. And that is the whole reason why this offseason's happening, run prevention, bettering the defense, changing, players at different positions, what have you. Like, it just seems as though the Met fan needs to, again, I say it every week, people don't like it. They got to calm down. They got to try to relax and let this play out. But that is something that a Met fan doesn't want to hear from me because, I've been waiting for 40 years. Like, I'm tired of winning. And I understand. I want to win too, man. But I'm with you, and I've been harping on this for a long time. The Mets have needed a plan forever. They've needed one. Now they have one, and people don't like how it's playing out. But again, you have to let it play out because it's about building up the organization as a whole. That's how you become one of the great teams. That's how you become the Dodgers. Like, I know everyone says, oh, we got to be the Dodgers, this and that. And everyone just looks towards the money and what they spend and their stars. And it's not just that. If you look beyond their stars, it's a lot of lower name talents. It's a lot of guys that they developed. It's a lot of guys that are from their system. It's a lot of guys that they rehabbed. Like, same things that David Stearns is doing or trying to accomplish, but those things take time. It took the Dodgers nearly a decade to get that right. Now, we as Mets fans hope that's not as long, but at the same time, it's going to take some time to build up an organization that for the longest time never truly had a direction.
I think people hate change my wife said that to me like 5 years ago, and yes, like in every which way, shape, or form, people hate change. I hate it when I try to jump on the LIE and my road is closed and now I have to find a different way to work. It's just nauseating, right? Because you don't know what is coming. But that's why you have to believe in the systems that are in place. And no one wants to hear this right now. Systems, give me players, give me money, give me something I can hold and have. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to look the same. It's just not. And you have to believe in that because, listen, this team that is now different, they never won a division. The Mets have won the division twice this century, like twice, 06 and 15. I know 22 was a bust. Everybody talks about 24, the magical run. Yeah, that magical run, they almost didn't make the playoffs. It came down to the last game of the season. And imagine if they didn't, right? Every year with this group, we'd say, get to May or June, there'll be some portion of the season where you go, something's up, something's right, something's a little off with this team, and the front office, who's been in there for 2 years, acknowledge that. I will tell you this little nugget about David Stearns from Philly. I think it was June. It was right when the Mets were, the classic June swoon, and certainly had a season swoon in 25. But we're leaving the hotel, and I said to David, it was right when they lost 6-7 in a row, something like that. I said, hey, is this real? I know fans are going crazy, but come out of this. And he kind of stopped me and was like, if I was a fan right now, I would be livid. Like, you're allowed to be angry every single night, every single play, every single loss that doesn't go our way. This is David Stearns telling me this to kind of remind me, you don't have to, quantify everything perfectly. You can kind of freak out. And so right now, I think Mets fans are allowed to freak out. David Stearns, as a Met fan, is probably saying that they're freaking out. Now, he's the man with the plan, but he gets it. And I think that was a big thing about yesterday when he had a media luncheon with members of the beat that are there every single day. I got to be there, and he gets it. He's got friends and family. I'm sure his Thanksgiving was a disaster, right? People yelling across the table at him, what are you doing? But again, these moves, these free agents that are gone are not shocks. They're not shocks. They're part of the plan. They're part of the rebuild, just the change. And the fans that'll be there on opening day, they'll see the team on the field, and it will look much different than January 14th. You'll have a much more belief in what is there, because you're right. They are not the Dodgers yet. And by the way, the Dodgers have won back-to-back titles, but for the 10 years prior to that, were amazing in the regular season and could not convert, could not get it done. And that's the trajectory. That's the arc of most good teams, right? You have to build it up. Then you get to the playoffs. You have to win divisions. The Mets aren't even at the point where they're winning divisions every year, Matt. Like, they have such a far place to get to. And that's why they had to take massive action. And that's why I kind of believe in the fact that it wasn't working. It wasn't working with this group. Doesn't mean Pete's a bad player, or Brandon's a bad player, or Jeff's a bad player. Does not mean that at all. The group, it's a team, wasn't working. So make the major changes. And I'm here for it because I love this about fans too. This team, I'm done with them. We're all going to be there on March 26th, right? I'm going to call every single inning of every single game this year. I can't wait for it. And so that mentality of we're going to be there. We're going to watch. We're going to see how it unfolds. That excites me to see, is David Stearns crazy enough that this is going to work? And I kind of want to see it work because bold, brash, brazen, New York. I mean, this has the makings of a great documentary. From pain that everyone's feeling right now comes potentially the big payoff.
I'm with you because I remember when when it happened, I had mentioned that, everyone was screaming about the Stearns, little small presser when people were asking questions. I think it was at the GM meetings and, or the winter meetings, I'm sorry. And, the stuff just happens with Diaz and, the next day Alonso happens, a crazy 24, 48 hours for Mets fans. And he stood in front of that media and he talked about being a competitive team. And at that point, you just lost Diaz. You knew you were losing Alonso. And I had said here, I was like, for someone to have the, to have the balls to go in front of a New York media to say that tells me that you don't just say that haphazardly. You say that because you have conviction that whatever your plan is, it's going to work and bring forth wins. And ultimately, fans can scream and yell about about the players and what have you. But again, it's always about the front of the jersey. We're all Mets fans here. We fall in love with players here, of course. We want to root for players. You want to have, certain guys on your team. That's my guy or whatever. I understand that. I do. But the older you get, the more it's about winning and wanting your team to win. I feel like a lot of people are so attached to said players, but really you want to win. So if this team goes out there and wins ball games, I think that the scars that have been created for some during this offseason are going to fade relatively quickly because, like you said, we're going to be there opening day. Whether you're in the park or on your couch, you're going to be there listening to you, listening to Howie, listening to Gary, Keith, and we're going to be there. And we want to win ball games, and people can be as pessimistic as they want right now, but ultimately we all want the same thing. However you go about it is your own prerogative, but we all want the same thing. We want this team to win. And I truly believe that David Stearns has the right intentions here, which brings forth, the follow-up. Like you're saying, you were able to be there. And I know you mentioned this on SNY about how he was speaking. But to sum it up, you felt as though he came across and the organization as a whole came across as very confident. Could you continue your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, he acknowledges we don't have an outfield right now. We're going to get a starting pitcher, whether that's the trade market or free agency. He said, barring these additions that we literally have to make, because as you outlined, Matt, you can't go into the season with two outfielders. It just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Once those things are done, we're not only a good team, we're a playoff team. He was very confident in that. And once you lay out the team, once you lay out the lineup, it comes together a little bit, right? I mean, the bullpen's not perfect, but they believe that it is. And what was unique about what Stern said yesterday too was talk about run prevention. He even said there's things that it makes it tough to swallow some of these decisions. Why maybe they moved on from Pete at first base. Like, was his defense that bad? Like, he says, he admits that there are decisions that it's hard to see with the naked eye over the course of a season. You're just watching the game. You don't notice every little thing that's quantified. And this player could have got to that ball, or this transfer was mishandled. Like, those are some obvious things. There's a lot of non-obvious things that even he admits that they had seen in whatever data it was. Because, the truth of the matter is that we'd play the Marlins and the Mets would lose. We'd go, you go play anybody, the Mariners, and they'd lose. Like, you find, I would get on the bus and go, this Mets team is talented. This team has skill. Why do they keep losing? And they lose in places that it's hard to see. And so Steve Cohen tweeted at the end of the year, we're going to look into the obvious and the less obvious reasons. And I think a lot of the moves that are made cover the less obvious reasons. So when Jorge Polanco is playing first base and Marcus Semien is playing second, and Sean Manaea is on the mound, and a new defense is behind him, like, you may be going, wow, the Mets are pretty good. I don't know how they're winning because they're not doing with the names that we are accustomed to. Now, Kyle Tucker is a name, but the group that they have right now, I think that they will. Most Mets fans are still not happy even with additions that are made. I get that. They will win games, and you'll kind of be interested in how are they doing that, because it won't be obvious. The Pete home runs and Brandon Nimmo home runs and grand slams. It'll be a different way of doing it. Now I can sit here and everyone say, okay, prove it. How? They're going to have to prove it. And I think that they believe that they have the right formula now to do that.
Yeah, and I think that, to the point you were just saying, I feel that the overall plan of attack, from what I'm seeing with said players, and even targeting a player like a Kyle Tucker, like, you want players that are very good in a multitude of areas, not just good at one thing. Now, look, I'm not trying to drag Pete or anything, but like, when we think of Pete Alonso, we automatically think great power, home run hitter. Like, that's, what Pete is. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, good teams have that, and it's good to have in the middle of your lineup. But I also think that this team wants players that are very good in multiple areas to aid them throughout an entire baseball game, and not really going through those extreme ups and downs that we tended to see within this offense as well. Now, look, we know the pitching was bad. We know the pitching was bad the second half of the year. They have to better the pitching in general. But that's not to say that the offense is 100%, clean here, because there would be like really rough spells of watching, not hitting with runners in scoring position, not being able to deliver in the big spot, and just really putting forth a boring brand of baseball. Now, I think that he's looking at this and saying, I want guys that put the ball in play. Now, look, I know baseball is about power and hitting home runs and putting runs on the board. I get that. And I'm not saying that it's always going to work this way, but I can also say that, you look at the team that the Mets are potentially battling right now for Kyle Tucker services, that being the Toronto Blue Jays. What did Blue Jays do? We watched it all postseason. They put the ball in play. Like, I think it's about getting guys that have less strikeouts, put the ball in play, force the other team to make the play, while also mixing in some of said power. I still think this team needs a little bit more power on the right-hand side, of course, but I think that is what I'm looking at as a potential plan for this team. It's just putting the ball in play and bringing forth a different brand of baseball, which is why it always bothers me when people are like, this guy's trying to run it like Milwaukee. Well, I'm sorry. When I watch Milwaukee play baseball, I watch a fundamentally sound team, a fun team to watch. They put runs on the board and they win ball games. Why wouldn't I want that here in New York?
And not to mention, the funny thing is too. I know David was not there last year, but the Brewers lost Willie Adames, their leading home run hitter and RBI man, and they
Mhm.
lost Devin Williams to the Yankees, their leading closer, and they won more games than they had the previous year. So like, it is possible. And then there's the section of people that will say, "Well, Milwaukee hasn't won anything," but yeah, they're in the dance every single year. They've made a push to the NLCS this year. Like, I get all that. But you want to be in the dance. Like I said, the Mets haven't even won the division with this crew. They haven't won the division since 2015. You talked about putting the ball in play. I mean, I think that's Jorge Polanco. When you look at his numbers too,
Mhm.
2 strikes, he's pretty good. Runners in scoring position, he's pretty good. Just put the ball in play. He's actually kind of an interesting middle of the order bat. If Soto walks, right, Lindor gets on, Soto walks. Well, where's Pete? Where's Nemo to drive in those runs? Instead of looking for the home run, you want to just dump the ball over the shortstop's head or shoot one down the line. Like, put the ball in play and move it along. Polanco, I think, is really good at that. And Kyle Tucker, too. One thing I like about him that he does very similar to Soto is if you look at the strikeout to walk numbers for the year, you don't have to tally
Mhm.
them, but they're pretty identical, right? He doesn't strike out a bunch. He walks. The walks and strikeouts the last 3 years have been right there. So he puts the ball in play as well, and he has that power threat. So it's definitely a push toward that because not only offensively with the Mets missing that, with what David said yesterday and what we saw toward the end of the year is, especially in that Miami series, it's the teams that put the ball in play against the Mets that they could not convert into outs. They didn't have the right gloves to make those plays to beat the Marlins right in the last weekend of the season. And that was one of many series that toward the end of the year, Mets defense from the deadline on was horrendous.
Yeah.
And every team that David Stearns talked to said as much. So they're going to put the ball in play on an offensive side, and they're committed to defensively converting those into outs when they're playing defense.
Yeah, and I think people tend to forget this too. I believe it was last year where Kyle Tucker had. This is why the Mets would obviously want a player of this caliber. I know people are trying to undress him a bit when it comes to the type of player that he is because of the freak injuries over the last couple of years, and of course, questioning if they think he could play in New York. But I'm sorry, guys. Like, Kyle Tucker is a damn good ball player. Everyone who watches the show knows I've been tooting the horn of Kyle Tucker to the Mets for the last 2 years. So I'm very excited right now. Hopefully that they can actually close this deal. But he was also the number 3 batter last year in terms of WAR at 4.0, and Juan Soto was number 1. I think it was Soto, Judge, and Tucker at the halfway point of last year. And then, of course, he sustained the fractured finger, which he played through, but that sapped his overall numbers. But again, we're talking about a damn good hitter here, a guy who puts the ball in play, near 300 hitter, 30-30 type of bat, and it can run. So it's like everything about him is good. Is he great at anything? I would say probably not great, not generational, but I think that this team needs really good ball players just all around. And I think that's what you get when you have someone, if you can get a Tucker, Marcus Semien, Jorge Polanco, like these guys, athletic guys, do a lot. I think that if you just have some ball players, take away all the fluff, take away all the attention. I know it's New York, but I think David Stearns wants ball players to be here and well-traveled ball players, winning ball players. Marcus Semien has won, also a leader. Jorge Polanco, leader. Juan Soto, obviously a winner, generational. Kyle Tucker, winner. Like, I think having these things when people are also questioning the sanctity and everything that was going on within that clubhouse, I think that goes a long way in how they're trying to reshape everything.
The 24 season, the one that went to the NLCS, I think JD Martinez was the only offensive player that had won a World Series. And now you have completely shifted it to exactly what you said is now you have guys that have won World Series, especially if they had Tucker who won it with Houston and did a lot of winning. So yeah, it's changing the shape in that on that topic of just winning ball players, and that's why I thought Cody Bellinger was an option because he is a good ball player, left field, first base, like can do it all, and that is definitely what they want. And so I'm very confident in what they are doing because again I've seen it from the other side, right? You call the Met game, you're seeing if the Mets can win, and when they don't, it's well, what kind of team beat them? How did they lose? power teams in 2025 and then 2026 winning games. And we saw with Toronto in the World Series, they just put the ball in play. You don't have to hit for power. You don't need 38 home runs and 130 RBIs from your first baseman. That's nice, but you can certainly win and go to the World Series in other ways.
Absolutely. And I want to give a quick shout out to the 1,400 that are here with us right now across YouTube as well as X. The ones on the YouTube side, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, would go a long way as we're hanging out with Keith Raad here again, voice of the New York Mets on radio, as well as an SNY contributor. I do have a poll running on the YouTube side. If you haven't voted already, 64 of you have. Make sure you vote. Will Kyle Tucker sign with the New York Mets? We have a very positive bunch in here today, which I like to see, which is at 72% saying yes, while 73% saying yes, while 27% are saying no, which then brings me towards a question I'll throw at you right now, Keith. You're sitting there, they're talking about their overall confidence. David Stern's finally speaking after a silence, if you will, ever since the winter meetings. Confidence is there from the team about what they're doing. All this Kyle Tucker smoke is starting to come out. Rumors about offers, 50 million AAV, 200 million, 150 million, whatever it may be, short-term, long-term, Toronto, all this stuff coming out. You're sitting there, you're hearing these things. You're sitting here with me right now across with 1,400 people. Where are your vibes right now when it comes to the Mets and Kyle Tucker?
Higher than they were before lunch yesterday. I will tell you that.
Okay.
A week ago, I would have said no chance because Kyle Tucker is a guy that I think this is the Toronto Blue Jays move of we'll give you 6, 7, 8 years and a big payday. You want the length of contract. Guys want that, just that job security, right? Forever. The Mets are not in that game for position players unless your name is Juan Soto, unless, like you said before, the word generational, like you're worth that money. But once the smoke started to build a little bit yesterday before the luncheon, Will Salmon shot out his article with numbers like 120 to 140 million short-term deal. And then the lunch ended. I'm headed on my way to SNY. Then it jumps to $50 million per year. And if you're Kyle Tucker and you're getting 40 million a year, 8 years from Toronto, something like that, that's pretty juicy. But if someone's offering you $50 million a year for 3 years. You can hit free agency at 32, where Bregman just cashed in with Chicago and made $175 million. All of a sudden, this is the power of Steve Cohen on the offensive side, outside of Soto again, that we have not seen. And this is David Stearns pushing for a free agent. Now, I kind of argue that there have been some moves made that David has gone out there and done. Like, this would be the first time we've kind of seen him actually use money in a way that changes the market a little bit. Dodgers love to defer the money. We'll pay you 400 years from now. Your great grandkids will get this money. Instead, it's the opposite. We'll give you a ton of it right here, right now, and we get your prime years. So I think that's what stopped Kyle Tucker in his tracks. I think that's what stopped his camp in their tracks. And okay, Mets are offering me $50 million. We're going to make that public because between you and me, like, anytime this stuff is leaked, it's for a reason, and you have to kind of wonder why and put the pieces together. Is that maybe Toronto's going, he's not going to sign a 3-year deal. We're giving him 6, 7, 8. But when you jump that money up to Steve Cohen prices, because Steve's going to pay that money and the CBT money on top of that nobody has to worry about, just him at the end of the year. Oh, that'll be $50 million. Actually, it's $100 million, but we're not going to worry about that every year. Like, this is a David Stearns move that we go, okay, he's got a guy that he really wants. And this is how he goes to get him. Not just a role player, not just, we're going to try Polanco for $20 million at first base. Like, I want Kyle Tucker now. I'm going to give you $50 million now. But still does it in a way where he doesn't sign up for maybe him, 7, 8 years, his downturn. Like, there's motivation for 3 years for Kyle Tucker to give you his best because he wants to get paid again. So I'm very confident in the fact that they like this player a lot. He does a lot of the things that are elite. David Stearns drafted him when he was in Houston in 2015, when David was an AGM there and Kyle was a first-round pick out of the same high school, coincidentally, as Pete Alonso, Plant High School in Tampa. So I think that they are really, really serious about this. I'm fascinated by these negotiations because, again, a player like this you just would not expect would sign a short-term deal. Unless and then he's not even rep by Scott Boras, so it's fascinating. I feel like everybody's in this watching this tonight is is waiting for you, Matt, to drop the news that
That'd be nice.
But I think that from what I felt yesterday, the vibes I got, the Mets really like him and they want to go get him.
I'm with you because I think that if there's anything we've learned about, these opt-outs lately and how players are cashing in and shedding the qualifying offer and stuff like that. Look, I still think it makes too much sense for the Mets to offer a deal where he would opt out after the second year as opposed to the first, because I don't know if Stearns would be comfortable with paying out the money, losing the international money, losing the picks, and then potentially losing the player. So I think that offering this, I would hope that it would be after 2 years as a potential opt-out. But I'm with you because when it comes to the age of 32, if he gets to be free, let's just say, argument's sake, and I was having a back and forth with someone on Twitter yesterday about this. If it's for 200, and let's say the example I gave was Toronto is at 8 years, but they're only offering, let's say, 265. Which I was like, the whole point I was making was lower AAV, but I'm giving you the years that you want. Like you said, the job security, which is what all these guys want. They hunt term, but they never get it. So that's why you're getting these more higher AAV deals. So I said, if that's the case, the Mets have a legit shot here, because if this player decides, hey, I can make $200 million in 4 years, I can be free again in my early 30s. I just watched, as you just said, Alex Bregman cash in with the Cubs. I just watched, Kyle Schwarber, different type of hitter, of course, but still was able to land $150 million. If he says, if you're going to offer me 265, 270, but if I take this 200 now, and if I bank on myself batting behind Juan Soto during his prime years, I could potentially cash in even more than that moving forward. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to take this $200 million, and then I'm going to cash that in again to get potentially another 150 down the line. Now I turned it into $350 or $350 million as opposed to, the 265, 270, even though you gave me the years. It's a lot more money. It all comes down to what this player wants, being comfortable. I know he's married. He has a child on the way. I know all this stuff, and this all plays into it too, but it's money as well. Like, it's always money. Like you said, I agree that, Stearns drafting him, understanding him, knowing what he is as a player plays into it. I know that people have also brought up, the rest of the connections with this team, Jeff Albert, Troy Snicker, Chris Gross, like all these people with the connections to him. Like, I get that. But ultimately, guys, as cool as that all is and making a player comfortable, that matters. Yes, it still comes down to money. It's always about money. It's about the contract. So either way, it makes me happy that you were sitting in that room and you feel confident. I tend to be more on the positive side, to the chagrin of some people in the chat that we tend to have. But I felt really good, very good last year when it came to Juan Soto. I felt like they were a team that just was not going to be denied no matter what. Perfect opportunity, perfect free agent, made too much sense. They were not going to lose. I never came off of that. I had been saying if this market crashes on Kyle Tucker, that the Mets were going to be in play, and they made a lot of sense to put him next to Soto for his prime years. And it happened, and here we are. And I'm still sitting here saying, I feel good. I feel really good about this. I think that you're right that this information comes out because it's about trying to push Toronto to a place where they're probably uncomfortable. That's why these numbers come out. I don't know if they're going to go that route. If they do, then I think he's a Blue Jay. I do. If they finally cave, if they say, look, we're going to give you 38, 40 million a year for 8 years, or I'm sorry, 9 years, 10 years, 11 years, he's a Blue Jay. Like that, he gets to have his cake and eat it too. But if they don't, and they're stubborn and they stay where they are, I think that he can be a New York Met. And look, I know people are going to have conversation with me in the chat once, Keith bows out, but I know people are going to talk about the Dodgers. I know that they're always lurking. They're like that shark that's just there, just waiting to attack. I get it, but I don't think that the Mets are going to let the Dodgers win in this sense if it was just the two of them. I think their biggest fear is the years and the Toronto Blue Jays potentially going up. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, Toronto, even though they went to the World Series last year, they've been starving for that big free agent, right? They were after Pete last year. He's one of the few teams that actually met with him. They signed Anthony Santander last year because, like, no one else would come, right? Everyone was tracking Shohei's plane 2 years ago that turned out to be Robert from Shark Tank landing in Toronto and not Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
But yeah, so they're definitely dedicated to landing a free agent. They don't feel like they have a lot of money coming off the books. They have plenty of money up there. It's just like getting the player to come is their toughest thing. So they will push. The part of the Mets are serious. There's a ton of smoke. Is they have made their best offers. They'll probably make more if they have to. But if Kyle Tucker wants to go to Toronto, like he can go to Toronto, and that's part of this whole thing. It's a confident spot where the Mets are because you're actually seeing their drive here. You're seeing we want this player like they wanted to go after Soto. They got Soto. They want to go after whomever it is. They'll go after whomever it is and try. But if Tucker doesn't want it, then that's no fault of the Mets at all. But yeah, it's good read on you on Soto last year because just being around the team and Steve Cohen and he's got $130 million paintings in his bathroom. Like he doesn't care about being out. He's not going to get outbid. Like you can have this is the kind of confidence that Mets fans should be having about getting players that they want. Obviously, it's frustrating. You can't get every free agent because you don't want every free agent to break it to you.
No.
But you try to get the ones that you can get, and so it's up to Kyle Tucker right now whether he wants to do this and bet on himself. And if he does, I think it's great because then they know they got the player that they wanted, the motivated player that they want.
I'll get you out of here on this last question. Do you think that the Mets are steadfast in what the offer is right now, or do you think that there might be wiggle room if they truly want to finish this and close a deal? Do you think Stearns would be that aggressive?
I do on this.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. That's
short and sweet. I like it. No,
I've got.
but I'm
it's
with
either a
you.
yes or no, really. I mean,
yeah, and I agree with you because I think that once you identify something that you feel fits with the team and can help you overall and help your star players as well and reshape, if you will, not retool, not rebuild like everyone wants to throw around. It's like to add something different that's of the same ilk. I understand that he's not the power hitter that Pete is, but overall, cover your ears, Mets fans. Overall, he's a better hitter. He is overall player. Kyle Tucker is better. So if you're telling me that the likes of Alonso, Nimmo, and McNeil are out, and I'm replacing that with Tucker, Semien, and Polanco, I know you guys love these players. I love them too, but I think that we're better off, and change was needed, and I think it's healthy change to bring it all back. It's about winning ball players too, and guys that have won, and I think injecting that into this clubhouse is something that does matter. And it mattered, last point, and it did matter when they signed somebody like a Max Scherzer. It didn't work in the end. It fizzled out when, it should have kept on going. I know Max had a rough exit, but when you inject players like that into the clubhouse, it does bring forth a different type of vibe and different expectations as well. And I think that's very important for this team moving forward. Having said all that, I promised him I get him out of here in 45 minutes. It's 43 minutes, and we're going to get him out of here because he, like I, often have children that we have to put down and take care of. So I'm going to let Keith get out of here. I want you to plug anything that you want, anything you have coming up. If you're showing up on SNY more, whatever it may be, plug your stuff, and then we'll get you out of here.
Well, first of all, I appreciate this, Matt. My best to John.
Of course.
I hope everybody tonight, maybe you could break the news if it happens tonight. I don't know how long you're going to be on here because you got to put your kids to bed.
I do, but yeah.
I just, 162 games that I do, they're mostly night games. So my chances to put my two daughters to bed are few and far between. So I have to take
girl dad. I feel you right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing to plug. Odyssey Mets Radio. We're there for you every single night. It's the greatest job I've ever had in the whole entire world. And I cannot wait to do it. So that's why I'm excited for no matter who the Mets put on the field. But just pumped for Mets fans. Stay the course. Intelligence will prevail here. I think they'll be in a great spot. I think everyone will be pleasantly surprised. And I think we all just need baseball to be back, right? We just need the daily routine that there's a game tonight. The Mets are playing. They may win. When there's no baseball, we tend to freak out. And I think everyone's freaking out, and rightfully so. But it's just we need some baseball soon. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, and I think you're 100% right and spot on. We miss that routine. We love having it on in the background. Of course, I listen to you guys often, especially on those nights like I believe opening day is going to be, where we have to hear some different people calling our favorite team. So we're like, you know what? I'll keep it on mute, and I'm gonna play my guys Howie and Keith instead. But either way, thank you so much, Keith, for joining. It's been a fantastic show. Got you out of here just over 45 minutes. You get those girls down. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much. Hopefully, we can have you on again.
All right, Matt. Be good. See you, everybody.
Thank you so much. That right there is Keith Raad. Shout out to the 1,500 plus that are with me right now across YouTube as well as Twitter. I have 70 here on the YouTube side. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe to the channel. Right now, we got 73 here, only 21 likes. Guys, if you're here, you're watching, you're enjoying what you just saw with Keith, I'm going to hang around a little bit longer to get into the chat. I apologize. It's always tough when having a guest. I want to stay engaged. So I apologize if there's been some great comments, but either way, make sure you hit the like. It goes a long way in us growing this channel and getting out there to more Mets fans. So make sure you smash that like. Make sure you vote on the poll as well. We have 80 votes as of this moment. Will Kyle Tucker sign with the New York Mets? 68% say yes, 32% say no. We'll dive into that more right here in the second half. Matt Ibanez here, a.k.a. Ibby. We're going to be back in 30 to continue having some fun. Stay tuned. What is up, everyone? Matt Ibanez here, a.k.a. Til Mets Do Us Part, checking in with you live, 6:20 Eastern Standard. We just had a fantastic first half with SNY contributor as well as play-by-play voice for the New York Mets, that being the one, the only Keith Raad. Fantastic conversation. If you missed any of it, just hit rewind. You can watch it, listen back. Make sure you're following us on all platforms right here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram, show handle at Til Mets Do Us Part. Follow me right over here at poison_Ibby on X. You can follow John as well at John Saponaro over on X. All that being said, we all know that even though it's a solo show, I have to continue what we normally do in a normal show. I'm going to try to dive into the comments in a moment. I know I'm well behind. But before we do that, we got to put in a quick word from our friends over at Independent Safes. That being said, IndependentSafes.com. Independent Safes are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes. Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit IndependentSafes.com today for security that stands strong. Of course, we got to pay the bills, and what that means, we have to also go into our favorite segment of the week. That being, it's time for someone to go into a safe. Make sure you put into the comments who you want to put into the safe. And today we are throwing away the key, brought to you by Independent Safes. Now, who exactly am I putting into the safe this week? There is a lot to think about when it comes to this team. And I don't have anyone in particular that I want to put into relating to this team. This was something I've been thinking about, and something that was obviously popular on social media. It is sports adjacent. It could be Met adjacent. It's media. And we all know that I always have my stance when it comes to media. I think that for me, I want to put into the safe all the media that decided that how things were handled by a reporter for being kind to someone after a tough loss. I think that whole outrage, and to die on that hill of, you represent a team, you're wasting people's time and this and that. Like, I thought that whole thing was just ridiculous. Granted, that also happened after the fact when everyone asked their questions, and, Liam Cohen, coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, made it a point to, offer Anyone else have any other questions? And there was like a pause. And then this woman, Lynn Jones, says what she says. Like, for people to say, like, you're wasting my time, like, guys, it was 20 seconds. If you can't make up those 20 seconds, you're probably not that good at your job, if we're being honest. I thought it was a wholesome moment. I thought it was good to hear. I enjoyed it. So the people that were having an issue with that, I'm putting all of you in the safe. Probably got to buy a panic room because the entire internet was in a tizzy over it, which I thought was ridiculous. So I'm putting all those people into the safe because those same types of things can be said during a baseball presser or whatever. Maybe that could happen one day for the Mets. So I do want to give a quick shout out to Gab. I'm not sure if Gab is in the comments, former guest of the show, frequent commenter. I know she put out saying how a lot of things are stuffy, and as someone who would stand in those rooms not knowing what to do at certain spots, it was good to see something like that happen and how change needs to start entering those media rooms. And I'm with her on that. I'm not even in there, but I agree with her on that. So I'm putting all those people into the safe, and that's who I am throwing away the key on, even though, again, not so much Met adjacent or not so much Met related, but media, sports media adjacent, if you will, still makes sense to talk about. I want to just throw it out there because that was only the really thing that really stuck out to me this week. Now, having said all that, while everything was going on, I was only able to star off one comment because I was so engaged with the conversation with Keith. Shout out to the 1,500 plus again that are still rocking with me. Appreciate all of you. I was only able to star this one. Like, Truman, could you explain this one to me? Like, why am I Garfunkel? Like, I was curious on this one because it just stuck out to me. I had no idea what the context was, but I just wanted to know exactly, why that was said. But why am I Garfunkel? I'm just curious. I guess John Simon. But either way, I was just very curious on that one. But in general, guys, I'm going to rock with you as long as I can. I want something to break. Don't know if it's going to, but Kyle Tucker. It does feel as though that this is an all-in approach. And I think you guys would agree with me. Like they are well in on this player, as Keith alluded to as well in the in the conversation we just had in the first 45 minutes of the show. Like, they like this player. They're in on this player. They're pressing for this player. The question then becomes if it was the Dodgers or if the Jays up their offer and they go all in and they land the player because they gave the overall term. They broke a decade, 11 years, 12 years, whatever it is. If they miss out on this player, what happens then? And I see Ethan in the comments over here saying Tucker or bust. Like, I do think that it's an all-in approach that can have its deficiencies. It can have its backfires. It might not work. We mentioned that last week. It might not work. But I think, to what Keith said and how I feel as well, I don't think they're going to allow themselves to fail here. I don't. I feel that they are all in to a point where they're saying, like, there's no return. And this isn't because of, what others are saying, how it's like, oh, it's, they're sensing the fan base, screaming, and they're like, oh, this is why they decide to jump in. That's not how organizations work. You can think that all you want. You can think that you matter that much, but in all actuality, you don't. So I think that they saw a market, they saw an opportunity, and they decided to jump in. Now, it makes a lot of sense. I don't think they're going to lose. And I will stand here or sit here in front of you guys during a breaking news episode, or during this show now, or a future episode, once we have resolution on all of this. But I really don't think they're going to lose. I think they're to a point where they're like, we're going to get this player, and there's going to be more after it. I think the confidence within the organization, as Keith outlined, is there, which tells me that they know not only what this move can bring, but what the following and subsequent moves are going to be. Like, to me, that speaks volumes. And I know the fan base, for some reason, doesn't want to hop on and believe any of it until they're shown something. But I think that confidence does matter, and confidence carries big. It does. It's the same reason why my confidence never wavered when it came to Soto last year. They weren't going to lose that player. They were not going to lose that opportunity. I don't think they're going to lose this opportunity. I really don't. If they have to go to a 5th year, maybe with more money, with another opt out, like I think they might even go there to what Keith said. He thinks they're going to press for this player. Cohen's involved. I get that too. Like he's involved, which he knows it's because there's a lot of money at stake here on a short term. Against the CBT, it's not $50 million a year. It's $100 million a year for this player. So there's a lot at stake, but it makes too much sense. Don't listen to people that are questioning if 2 right fielders are the right move. That's just nonsense and somebody being a shill. Don't listen to it. It's stupid. It makes no sense. John posted something earlier today that I was feeling as well. He actually beat me too because I was going to post something similar, but he outlined everything when it came to it. And that was, if the Mets get this player at this price, 3/150, 4/200, they'll get bashed and ridiculed and they're desperate and they're pathetic. And who does that? This player's not worth that. But if the Dodgers did it, they would be lauded for being fantastic organization. Incredible. What a genius move. They deferred all this money. Give them their flowers. Who better than the Dodgers? And the sad part is it's true. Because the Mets fan and the Met fan base and the Met organization is just never allowed to have nice things because there's always complaining. But like I've said before, if you go out and win ball games, you shed that nonsense, which is what you have to do. And if you want to win more ball games, having a player like Kyle Tucker helps you. So don't be that person that pokes holes in the player that is Kyle Tucker. I just outlined it for you before. It's a 4.0 WAR player in the first half, which was second in the league. Soto was 4.1. Judge and Tucker were 4.0. It's a good ball player, man. I know the defense is going down a little bit. It's a damn good ball player. He makes a ton of sense. You plug him into the lineup. I know it's lefty dependent, or it's lefty heavy, I should say, but that is not the end of the world. You have good hitters. I don't care where you hit. I don't care what side you hit from. If you can hit the ball, that's all I care about. And he's an elite hitter. You want those players on your team. Makes too much sense. Shout out to the 1,600 here now that keep on rocking with me across all platforms, Twitter, YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button on the video. We're at 28 right now. I would love to hit 50 before we get out of here. Make sure you sub the channel. I still have the giveaway going on. I'm not going to give it away until we hit 1,550 subs. We're closing in on 1,500, so I think we're about, last time I checked, we're about like 60 subs away. So if you haven't subbed to the channel yet, make sure you do. I am giving away a signed plate/disc that you can hang on the wall that has the Met logo on it. It is signed by the one and only Hall of Famer, former Met closer Billy Wagner, with his 2025 Hall of Fame inscription on it. Posted it on our Twitter. Has him signing it as well as a close-up of the item itself. Great for any memorabilia collector. Have given away a lot of cool stuff on the show. Want to keep doing so as my thank you to all of you for rocking with us for as long as you have, or if you're just joining us and want to win something cool, that's fine too. And hopefully we can keep you around post giveaway. That's always the goal. We love maintaining an audience and hanging out with all of you. I'm going to try my best to go over to the chat, which has been very active. Don't know who's here, but shout out to everybody who is. I see Truman's rocking. I did not find Truman's response as to why he called me Garfunkel. Why did you call me Garfunkel, Truman? I don't want to sidetrack the show too much here. Whether this is tongue in cheek or not, the fact that Truman's saying his confidence in Stearns is very high, I'm going to run with that because we've seen how Truman has been in the comments the last couple of weeks. Pantrice, shout out to Pantrice, one of my favorites from over on Reddit. Pantrice saying, true Ibby, our front office seems super confident this offseason. You would think it would bleed over to the fan base, but it doesn't. But giving players or giving the fan base these big-time players does go a long way in terms of creating some space and some breathing room for you as an executive. Not saying you should do it based off of the fan base's response, but if the player fits and it's right, makes sense. Armand bringing us in with some info. Shout out to Armand, always keeping us up to date here. I did see this tweet from Puma trying to pour some cold water on everything. Per Mike Puma, the Mets expect to receive an answer relatively soon on Kyle Tucker. Team brass at the moment doesn't have a read on which way he might be leaning. Everyone knows my feelings on the post. Puma, Heyman. I'll reserve those for now. But again, I'll allow it to play out. I'm not going to take the word of anyone pouring cold water just yet. We'll see what happens. Okay. I still think the confidence is very high on my end, and I feel good that they might land this player. Let's see. What else do we got here? We have switch hitters, which is true, Josh. We do have a lot of switch hitters. Lazy coming in saying, Ibby, I think you should give away some of your used clothes. That's not my style. If I give away clothes, it's usually things that I would win at auction. Such as, previously I've given away a signed Hojo jersey back in the early stages of the show. That was a big giveaway for us. We gave away a signed Howard Johnson jersey. That was a cool one. Give away a lot of signed, framed pictures, a lot of autograph, a lot of signed baseballs. So that's kind of more my speed. I know where Lazy's going with this, but giving away my used clothes that, might have had a fight with an olive oil bottle, not so much my style. But if that's your thing, that's cool too. All the power to you. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. I'll throw it to the chat on this. If they happen to miss on this player, what do you think is the pivot? What is the pivot if the Mets do not land Kyle Tucker? What is the next move? Do they stay on the free agent market? Do they find a bat there? I know someone mentioned before in the comments Eugenio Suarez. I don't think they go that route because you already have Vientos. Don't pay that money. Doesn't make sense. I see Ethan coming in here saying Duran. I get the point, Ethan, but I question if Duran is the route that they would go, because losing Bregman, I don't know if they want to lose more offense. I don't know if they want to do it, especially now because they got the pitcher. The Mets' advantage would have been to give some pitching in a deal potentially. I don't know if they're going to go that route. I don't. I understand why you're saying it, but I question if they would. Stevie Mack coming in saying Belly and Framber. I'm out. Guys, I know I spoke a lot about Bellinger on the show and why it felt like things were coming to a head in terms of how they've gone about the offseason and why he made a ton of sense. But I don't see it anymore. The more and more that comes out, the yearly, I feel like he's playing with fire. And I also think it's just angling to stay with the Yanks. I think it's a market of one. I really do. If the Mets miss on Tucker, I do not think Cody Bellinger is coming. I don't. And I know people won't like that because they're going to say, what am I getting then? But I don't see them investing the years that Cody Bellinger would want. Framber, I could still see Framber. If they miss on Tucker, I could see Framber. Would they be comfortable giving up the pick? Probably not, but they might feel as though this is our pivot here, similar to what the Red Sox did by missing out or dropping the ball, I should say, on Bregman, missing the bat and then bettering the pitching by signing Ranger Suarez today to a very expensive deal. I'm not a big fan of Ranger. Throws 91 miles an hour. I know he's good in the playoffs, but not my cup of tea. We mentioned that a couple weeks ago when Joe DeMeo was in the comments too. I saw him here before. I don't know if he's still here, but I would rather have Framber as opposed to Ranger. Shout out to Ranger for getting his money. Good for you, man. But I think Framber is still a possibility for this team for sure. I think that could be a potential pivot, more so than Bellinger. Let's take a look. What else do we got over here? Pantry's coming in saying how Mets beat writers are super annoying. That's an understatement. Seems they always want us to fail, lose so they can write more outrage articles. Losers, a lot of them. Might have to give you a key to my heart there, Pantries. Like, that is spot on how I feel a majority of the time. So thank you for that one. Makes a ton of sense. There was zero chance the Mets beat the Yankees off of Bellinger, and nor should they. I've always felt that Bellinger wanted to go back. He always wanted to be a Yankee. It made too much sense. I think they're just, going back and forth. It's ugly, but I really think that it's a market of one. That's it. No one else is going to come in here and give Cody Bellinger what he wants. Maybe he's just trying to push for that 6th year from the Yanks, and they're going to hold steady at 5. But I think he's playing with fire. I do. Boris has proved me wrong before. He has proved me wrong before, so we'll see what happens in this sense. But either way, game for war. Right on cue with what I would expect his answer to be. The pivot is that there is no pivot. And David Stearns proves that the boy genius is not as smart as he thinks. Yeah. There's always a pivot. There's always a plan B. For all my wrestling fans out there, there's always a plan B. Let's take a look. Bellinger's not worth it. I agree with that one too. Take a look. Got Carlos coming in here. Carlos Anderson. This is your first time here, Carlos. I apologize if it's not, but welcome. Call San Diego. Pivetta and Jackson Merrill sign Framber. I don't think they'll give up Jackson Merrill. Nor should they. He's young. He's cheap. Struggled that 2nd year, but talent is there. It's a player. It's a building block player. I don't think they move him. And I don't think they're going to go after Pivetta either. I don't. I often come back to the idea if the Mets and Stearns wanted a player, they would have attacked him when they could have had him. You could say that the qualifying offer was a deterrent for someone like Pivetta, but like Pavetta's talked about, and I'm like, if he wanted him, he would have got him. Christian Walker has been talked about. If he wanted him, he would have got him when he was a free agent. I don't know if they would. Armand coming in to ruin my soul and say how Austin Hayes and Harrison Bader, a.k.a. the pivot duo. Oh, Austin Hayes. Good God. Hopefully not. Take a look. Luis Robert. Freddie Peralta. I still think Freddie Peralta, man. I do. I don't care too much about Robert. But Freddie Peralta makes a ton of sense. Really does. Hey, Gab. Good to see you. I don't know if you were in here before, but I did shout you out when it came to who I put into the safe. Mentioned how you felt that there was a need for change to the stuffiness of those pressers, those post-game pressers in the media room itself. So I shouted you out for that because I put everyone who complained about that into the safe. So no, I did not put you in the safe. No, I did not put you in the safe. I put everyone that complained about it into the safe. It's okay. She was eating meatloaf. It's okay. Not a problem. But yeah, shout out to the 1700 as the numbers continue to climb as we are sitting here waiting for any type of news that might drop. I have Twitter open on my end. I hope that some news drops. That'd be awesome. But I don't know if we're going to get it tonight, but I'm going to hang out with you for as long as I can in hopes that something does happen and we can talk about it. But would it shock anyone here when it comes to this pitching and this approach that they're having right now with going after a Kyle Tucker and how they've gone about the offseason to this point and their hesitancy when it comes to starting pitcher, specifically the free agent market? Would it shock anybody? I think it was Tony Metro. Shout out to Tony. Love Tony. If you're not subscribed to, make sure you subscribe to Tony Metro here on YouTube as well as TikTok. Follow him on Twitter. Good guy. Friend of the show. I believe he mentioned how, this team might be very accepting of the fact of where the staff actually is, build the offense, and allow it to play out and then attack the pitching as the season goes on. Now, I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do, but at the same time, based off of what is readily available, and if the prices aren't right when it comes to deals, I just think that that is a possibility, but I still think they're going to get an arm. And I still think Peralta makes too much sense. And I know a lot of teams are said to be in the mix for him, but there is no reason why the Mets should lose. The Mets match up in terms of what the Brewers want. I know the Red Sox are in on it too, but they just signed Ranger, which tells me they might be out of that now. So that eliminates one of the teams that were a match. I think the Mets have what the Brewers want. I think David Stearns wants the pitcher that he signed. I think that's his vision of growing this staff. I still think Freddie Peralta is pitching for this team on opening day. I really do. And I hope for Mets fans' sanity, I hope that Freddie Peralta is pitching and Kyle Tucker and Juan Soto are flanking each other in the outfield. I think that'd be awesome. I really do. And I have high hopes. I do. And we all know hope is not a strategy. I'm well aware of that. But I still believe that this team has had a vision this entire time. And I think they're going to execute it. I really do. I think this is David Stearns looking at what he said in that post-game presser when they missed the playoffs about understanding what he did right versus understanding what he did wrong, looking at things and saying, could have been better in different spots. Being aggressive, could have been more aggressive, I should say. I think this is that spot. I think the farm's where it needs to be. I think it makes too much sense. And I think, people might think I'm living too much on hopium and being too positive. Come on, man. Like, you're talking to the guy who all he's ever wanted was a plan for his team. And there's finally one. And it's being carried out. And yes, it's disciplined. And yes, it's looking forward. And yes, it's looking at things not so much in the short term, but looking at the overall picture. You hate it now, but it's the right thing. I think they get those players. I think these are the players that you want. These players are better to go after as opposed to the ones that everyone just wants to throw money at. Ranger Suarez, God bless, $130 million. Again, I don't know if that's going to age well. I don't think he's a front of the line pitcher. Throws 91 miles an hour. I know he's won at that number, but it's been going down. That's not for me, man. It's not. And I know some Mets fans complained about it today, and I know even some beat writers, might have been John Harper, saying how, it seems like a deal that would have been in the Mets range. Just why wouldn't you go after that pitcher? I don't know, because his numbers keep on going down. He doesn't throw very hard. And he's not what you want in terms of a front-end pitcher. He's just not. So again, that is selective outrage over things because you just want to scream about something. Because you're not getting what you think is proper. Let it play out. Ant, my man Ant, coming in hot, saying, come on, Ibby, you hate Suarez. Don't sugarcoat it. I'm not a fan of Suarez. And I said so much when we talked about it between him and Framber. I would much rather have Framber. Potential issues and all, the cross-up with the catcher, I will take the pedigree and the background of Framber over Ranger. I would. Sinker ball pitcher, the way the ball dives, I think that Framber would last longer and be better over 3 years than Ranger would be over 5. I won't hide from that. And if I'm wrong, I'll wear that too. But that's kind of the way I look at it. Truman coming in saying 91 is dunk tank numbers. That's a good one. That's a good one. Darren asking the hard-hitting questions. Ibby, did you witness the 86 Mets or was it before your time? It was before my time, even though, who was it, Truman, who thought I was like 50 years old last week? I am not that old. I'm 37. So I was born in 88. I missed 86. So I have not been alive for any type of winning in that sense from our New York Mets. I was there. Game 7 in 2006. I was in the building. Upper tank, behind the plate. I was there. 2015, upper deck, left field, game 5. I was there. So that's, I haven't seen a lot of good, a lot of pain, but have not seen that World Series victory, which is what obviously the ultimate goal is for all of us as Mets fans because we want to see it. It's been a long time. I'm with you, Ant. Bring me Freddie Peralta. I want him too, man. That's been the guy from day one, from jump. Lazy coming in. I still think Zach Gallen can be saved. I feel bad for Zach Gallen. I really do. I think that qualifying offer has absolutely crushed his market. And he has been it has been radio silent on that guy. Nobody wants to give up the pick. Nobody wants to give up the capital to bring him in. He's coming off of a rough year. I'm with you. I think that he's still a good pitcher. But I think when it comes to the money you probably got to pay, even if it's the 1 year, coupled with, the penalties of that qualifying offer, I think it's crushed his market. It's unfortunate, but I think it's the truth. He might be a guy that ends up signing very late in the process. But wherever he goes, I hope he does get a shot, a proper shot, because I still think there is something in the tank. So I'm with you on that one for sure. Ibby was there when the Mets were founded. I was not there in 1962. We have been building character, though, since 1962. That's for damn sure. But I have not been there since 1962. Let's take a look. What else do we have here? Chrissy coming in saying that she thought I was 25. I appreciate that, Chrissy. I really do. Thank you for that. A lot nicer than the other ones I've gotten so far. Yes, the moral of the story, Ant, is I should stop going to Mets games. Granted, I only went to one game last year. I was only able to get to the stadium one time last year. They won that game. And that's the only one I was able to get to. So they clearly didn't do a lot of winning with me not in the building because they didn't even make it to the playoffs. But hilarious nonetheless. Let's take a look. What else do we have here? Ruben over on Twitter. What's up, Ruben? Good to see you, man. If you're ever on the YouTube side, make sure you sub the channel, man. I appreciate you. I think Ruben retweeted one of my things this morning. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Good question here. From Joshua Likes Graham Crackers, still one of my favorite names on here. What do you think is an appropriate offer for Peralta? Sprout is expected, but what else? Good question. They want something that's major league ready, which Sprout is. But I still think, and I've talked with Keith about this as well over at Shea & Sons, as well as within the Mets content creator chat that we have all together. I think Peterson makes sense. And I know Chrissy just gave me a compliment. She's not going to like me because she's a big Peterson fan. And I've defended David Peterson on this show for years, saying how I thought he was a contributor. I'm so happy that finally came to fruition. But I wouldn't be shocked if it was Sproat, Peterson, and another piece. Now, what the other piece is still remains. Shout out to Ryan Finkelstein over at Just Baseball, as well as, Lockdown Mets. I know he threw out one that was, of the higher end. I think he said Sproat and Jacob Reimer, who was a big breakout candidate within our system last year, who could potentially be a future first baseman for this team. I don't think the defense is going to play at third. Bit of a butcher over there. But that would be a big piece to give up. because if anything, Reimer is the guy that has shown the overall growth of the Mets farm system in terms of development from the hitting side. So getting rid of a player like that would be a tough pill to swallow, especially for just it being the 1 year on top of giving up Sproat. Remember, it's about giving up all those years. Like, that's what it comes down to. Peterson has the 1 year at $8 million, which is also the $8 million that Freddie Peralta's making. So an even swap there. I don't know. I just think Peterson, Sproat, and maybe another bat. I would have to think on that for a minute. Think of their system for a moment. But I'm not sure if that would be. I think that would be enough. I think it would be enough. Sproat, Peterson, and one other piece for Peralta. I think that that's something that could get done. And I still think the Mets are going to be aggressive. I think that they will be aggressive in terms of trying to attain him, because with the Red Sox out now, I think the Mets, they've always been the driver's seat to me, but I think they're definitely the top team that matches up with the Brewers the most. Hey now, look who it is. Guys, I have an hour and 20 minutes trying my best to put this show on my back.
Yeah.
Raad here, having a great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in the second half of the show.
Yep.
And our main man, John Saponaro, jumps into the chat to join us. John, how you doing?
I've been better, man. In all seriousness, sorry I missed the beginning of the show. Sorry I missed Keith Raad as well. I was listening along to a little bit of it, which is how I knew that you were still going on and that I could try to get in here. Without getting into gory details or super sad stuff, my dog is pretty sick, and she's been having issues for about a month, and she's kind of, I don't know. Right now, the prognosis is kind of still positive, but she's really been struggling the last couple days, and she's been having some accidents, and she is a dog that's never had accidents in the entire time that we've had her. And she had one at a very inopportune time, about 20 minutes before we were going to start. And I had to take care of that, obviously, because that is, the most important thing. So, of course. Apologies to you, because I did spring it on Ibby. I was just like, I just messaged him like, hey, you have to do the podcast without me, like 11 minutes before we were going to start. Probably not that soon, but it was close.
It's why my notes that I didn't have, like, for questions, because John usually runs point. I was like, I'll try to write something down real quick. And I think, and chat, you can let me know, like, I thought I did a decent job, but my notes were so scribbled. Like, I was writing so fast. Like, what do I ask? Okay, let's do. And then I think it came out well. I'll listen back to it, even though I hate doing that. But I'll listen back because I am curious. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the chat. And yeah, of course, I'm sending you all the love and prayers. Hopefully, it's never easy. I went through a lot with it with my dog too. Never fun, never easy. But hopefully the things turn out proper for you.
I appreciate that. And I see that in the comments too, Chrissy saying, OMG, hope she's okay. And GSD saying, pray for the canine. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's just, it's been a trying couple of days. We've been kind of dealing with it, like I said, for a month, my girlfriend and I, but like the last week or so, it's gone into hyperdrive, and we're like getting up super early, all hours of the night, taking shifts. It's been like a lot. So I appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't, be here, like I said, but I did want to jump in, not to bring the vibe down. I didn't want to jump in to steal your thunder. I did, like I said, from what I was listening to, what I was able to watch. I thought you did do a great job. I knew you would.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving my best to Keith, and my apologies. I'll hit him up separately as well. But like you said, shout out to the 1,800 people here that are watching across all the platforms. Sorry we're not on Substack, by the way. That's also my bad. It's because of what went on. I usually set up the Substack. Okay. That's why you have to set up a new feed every time you go live. And so the existing feed just needs to be like reintegrated. It takes 11 seconds, but I just didn't have the time to do it. I usually do it right before we start. So anyway, Ibby, the biggest thing that I want to chime in on here is just the Kyle Tucker stuff, obviously. The Mets are serious. The Mets are sincerely serious. And I think the last thing I heard kind of before I jumped in and interrupted you, because I also didn't tell Ibby I was coming on the show, was, basically saying that like this interest is real and this is a legitimate offer. And, I don't know if you said this much, but like there are people who are saying like, oh, if the Mets were serious, well, then they'd be offering the years. And it's like, that's not what this is about. And I tweeted something out shortly before I couldn't do the show, which was simply, listen, if your camp is telling you at the start of the offseason that you can get 10 to 12 years, somewhere around $400 million, and then you're getting an offer that is like, let's say half the money in less than half the years, that's a good deal for you. Like, I know people nobody wants to be a free agent when they're 32. I don't know, Ibby. I mean, if you're going to give me $200 million with the ability to opt out of that deal a couple of times and cash a couple of $50 million checks and then get back into, the open market at 30 or 32, listen, 32-year-olds aren't getting crazy deals, but he could sign at that point. He could sign another $200 million deal and he'll be right back where he started from.
The point that I made that I was talking with Keith about, I said that, when you look at something like this, if I can make $200 million, now this is assuming that there wouldn't be opt-outs, but we know there's going to be opt-outs, but let's just say, argument's sake, he says, I'm going to take this $200 million and I'm going to take this into my early 30s. Who's like, if you're only getting offered, let's say 270, 280, maybe 290 from the Jays, but you got 8 years, 9 years maybe. He might look at that and say, I can make this 200. And I just watched Alex Bregman make another 175. I just watched Kyle Schwarber make another 150. Like, I can do this if I bank on myself and I get to play with the prime years of Juan Soto. Like, you could do this and cash out again. Easily.
Absolutely. And let's be honest, Ibby, there are two things that are hurting Kyle Tucker's market. He's had 2 years where he was banged up in a row and he has the qualifying offer. That's why he didn't get a $400 million contract. It's the only two reasons why he has not gotten that deal. Because when you look at this guy, he was a
4-WAR player. I mentioned that. He was a 4-WAR player in the first half next to Soto and Judge.
He is no worse. And there's a few different metrics, right? And I know people don't like WAR, whatever. People don't like this. I really like weighted runs created plus. I think that's a very good barometer of the type of hitter somebody is. And if you don't follow those kinds of statistics, it measures hitters on a league average of 100. So every point that you're higher than that, you are that percentage better than league average. And if you look at some of the things that he's done in his career, I mean, if you're talking about a guy with 140 WRC plus, 160, like crazy, 60% better than league average, elite numbers. And he's done that even in years that have been injury years for him, even in years that have been down years for him. So I just think that when you look at what this guy is, he's underrated. He's under the radar. So I get that. He plays in Houston and he's not a flashy guy. So, it's easy to kind of have those players disappear into the background. I get that. But you got to look at the numbers that this guy puts up. I mean, he's basically, no one is Juan Soto, right? There's the only people that are comparable to Juan Soto are Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Those are the only guys right now that are in that stratosphere, the upper echelon of major league hitters with the track record. Other people can crack into that, of course, but we're talking about the track record of success and just doing it year over year. It's those three guys. So Kyle Tucker is not that, but Kyle Tucker is, from a profile, he's like Juan Soto light, and it's not that light, you guys. Like, that's the thing that you need to realize when we're talking about the type of player that he is. And maybe as you pop back in, I was just saying, like, there's the upper echelon of players in the league of hitters, and it's Soto, Ohtani, and Judge. Those are still the guys. Other guys can get in there, some of the younger folks, some of the people that haven't done it year over year. But Kyle Tucker is Juan Soto light. And it's not that light when you look at some of the things that he does in terms of striking out fewer times than, as many times as he walks or walking more than he strikes out. The on base percentage is high. The eye, the discipline, the chase rate is high. And he's a guy, and I know pace isn't the actual number, but we talk about these 2 years where he was injured, and he was on a 40 home run pace both times. He was on a 40 home run pace in Houston 2 years ago, and he was on a 40 home run pace last year with the Chicago Cubs in a place that is tough to hit if you're not acclimated to it, a place that is tough to hit certain times of the year, and a place that can be tough to hit for left-handed hitters with power. And this is a guy who, in his first go-around there, and he was playing with a broken bone in his hand or whatever it was, still hit like 23 home runs. So he's not Juan Soto, but he's close. And I think a lot of people are like, I saw a ridiculous comment. Somebody was like, Tucker's just younger Nimmo. Bro. No, he's not. You're muted. But like,
no.
Yes, no. So this is like, we're talking about a guy who, yes, and I like this comment here. First of all, yeah, I agree with you, Armand, on this. I like weighted runs created plus and OPS plus for hitters as well. But Edward Wall saying, everybody's saying that Tucker is left-handed. We have too many left-handed batters, but Tucker hits righties and lefties pretty much even, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, when you're talking about the type of hitter that Tucker is, the type of hitter that Soto is, their handedness doesn't really matter, Ibby. And also, they got rid of McNeil and they got rid of Nimmo. This narrative that the Mets are too left-handed when they've added Marcus Semien, who's a right-handed hitter. They have Lindor, who's a switch hitter. They have Polanco, who's a switch hitter. Okay, so you have Brett Beatty and Carson Bench and two other lefties, and those two lefties are two of the best hitters in the sport? Yeah. I don't think they're too left-handed. I don't. I even think you could make this case to a lesser extent if it was Cody Bellinger, because he also hangs in there pretty tough against lefties. He's not an automatic out, but he's the guy who's more Nimmo-esque. Tucker is an elite offensive player, and I agree. I think it should be a full court press. I tweeted yesterday, 4 for 200, 5 for 250. I saw the tail end of Keith Raad before he left. He said the Mets are, in the space now where they're probably not going to get beat. They're not going to get outbid. Maybe he wants to go to LA instead. Maybe he takes the crazy, deal that Toronto ponies up and goes and gets him. But I'm of the school of thought now too. I don't think Steve Cohen and David Stearns are going to be denied here. If they have to add another year and add another opt-out, I think they will. I could see this being 5-250.
I was thinking the same thing, and I was saying to Keith towards the end of our conversation before I let him go, I said, like, I was very confident on this show when it came to Juan Soto, and I said that this team was not going to lose Juan Soto. Once this team locks in on something, I feel like they're not going to be denied. Now, one could say, well, they were denied on Yamamoto, but again, they did what they were supposed to do. They did what I said that they should do. I said, if you want a shot at that pitcher, you better go 50 to 75 million more than what the Dodgers are willing to do. And guess what? The Mets did do that. The Dodgers, no one wants to remember this. The Dodgers were steadfast at like 150. I'm sorry, like 250. Like they were like, I'm not going that much higher than like 275. Then the Mets came in. They're like, well, we're going to throw 325 on the table. They weren't given a chance to go higher because the Dodgers match. That's where you wanted to go. So it's like when this team, given that opportunity, I don't think they're going to be denied, especially when they're given an opportunity to go higher or continue the bidding, which they were with Soto. Like I don't think they're going to lose. I still feel very confident here. I still think that this is going to be the move that ends up happening. I really do.
I think the only way, and I said it last week that I would be disappointed if they don't get him. I would be especially disappointed if he went to the Dodgers. But I think now the Mets are in full court press mode that I'm not trying to backtrack what I said last week. I just think that if Tucker doesn't wind up a Met, it's because Tucker didn't want to be here. And then that falls at the feet of Tucker, not at the feet of David Stearns. Because they're now in a mode where it's like, yo, go out and get the guy. Okay, here's $50 million. Here's another $50 million. Here's another $50 million. And I'm with Ethan here. What's stopping them from pushing this beyond Soto's AAV? Nothing really. I don't think listen, if you're Juan Soto, you have the highest contract that's ever been given to somebody in the sport that you play in, and you've got the highest contract that's ever been paid to anybody in North American professional sports. I don't think Juan Soto is going to be butthurt if Kyle Tucker gets $2 million more per year than him, knowing that his deal doesn't touch his deal, right? Like, it's not going to, he's like, Juan Soto is going to make $500 million more than Kyle Tucker. He doesn't care about the 2 years on the AAV. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
People want to jump at the idea that, feelings are going to get hurt because so-and-so's making more money. He doesn't care. He's set for life. By the time he opts in, or when the Mets opt into that, deal after the 5 years or whatever, he's going to make $805 million. Like,
that's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good. Like, he doesn't care about X player making more than him. And let's also remember this: when he opts into that deal, when the Mets opt into that deal, which they will, he's going to be making $55 million a year. So again, it doesn't matter. So people don't want to look at the overall picture, if you will.
You said after year 5, right? That's when Soto can do that?
Correct.
So Kyle Tucker might not even be on the Mets.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. I do like some of this stuff here that I just want to point out in the comments here. I appreciate this from Ethan. If the Mets get Tucker, I'll apologize to Stearns.
Damn right,
I appreciate
Ethan.
the integrity there, because a lot of people are going to need to do that, and a lot of people wouldn't say this. So shout out you for saying it. Joshua, this is why I like Joshua, likes graham crackers, because if we get Tucker, I'm never going to let the trolls or doomers on Stearns live it down. I tweeted something earlier today where it was just basically like, it was a long diatribe. I admit that, but at the end of it,
John wrote a book today. John wrote a book.
I did. It needed to be written, though. It needed to be written.
I agree.
I'm sorry that Talking Mets with Rob was on the receiving end of it. I don't think anything that I said to him was disrespectful or out of bounds. I've been on Rob's show. I actually like Rob, but I do think that what Rob was doing was spreading misinformation. There was one line of dialogue in a report that said, Steve Cohen is now in the negotiations. As a Met fan, you see that, you should go, Steve Cohen's in the negotiations. Oh my God, wow, that means they're really trying to get this done. Like, it's the final thing where you need an owner's approval to give out $200 million and $50 million a year or whatever. And he took that, and it's like, oh, it's another case. It's another case of Stearns not being able to get it done. It's like, dude, it wouldn't surprise me, Ibby. Would this surprise you if Steve Cohen, before like a couple weeks ago, didn't even know who Kyle Tucker was? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
there's like, David Stearns was the assistant GM when the Houston Astros drafted Kyle Tucker. You don't think that he's got this guy like on the radar? You don't think he's aware of this guy? You think Steve Cohen, the guy who self-described is not a baseball man, the way that like he doesn't fancy himself like an evaluator of talent?
Right.
He's not. He's just there because they're trying to get this over the hump. Hey, you want a call from the owner? The owner will call you. You want to meet again? We'll meet at the owner's fucking house in Connecticut. Is that what you want? Because that's the positive of Steve Cohen. The positive is this is a guy who knows how to wine and dine. He knows how to take out like these people who are like, hey, we're going to make these high leverage deals. Steve and Alex Cohen and their family have built a community around the Mets. That's the positive. And he always says, how much? And he signs the checks. Here's the budget. The budget is astronomically high. Oh, but by the way, if you want to get a superstar, just come talk to me and I'll probably let you go get that too. And we'll blow right past the budget. And I'll sign this guy to a $200 million contract that's really going to be $400 million if we pay him, because we're so far above the luxury tax that everything is 110% on the dollars spent on this guy. So it's like, that's the positive. David Stearns is the one who is addressing these needs. David Stearns is the baseball guy. David Stearns is the contract guy. He's the guy who reads the markets. David Stearns, like, he's the one who knows the baseball players. It wouldn't surprise me if Steve Cohen didn't even know who Kyle Tucker was. And the reason why I bring this up, the reason why I say all that, is that at the end of that rant that I put on Twitter, I was like, I don't know if I want the Mets to win a World Series more because I'm a Mets fan and I want to see a World Series, or that I just want them to win out of spite. for the people who are dragging this man through the mud. And Ibby and I have criticized Stearns. We will continue to criticize Stearns. If they don't get Kyle Tucker and there is no pivot and this team sucks, I will be criticizing David Stearns because the plan didn't work. But Ibby, we're at a point now where they haven't even signed Kyle Tucker. And people are already trying to discredit this person. And that is, to me, it's blasphemous. Honestly, it's gross.
It's so misplaced when, and I like having fun with Rob and CP in their comment sections when they're live. No beef with them whatsoever. Not at all. Not at all. Ton of respect, what have you. But I've said to Rob before, it's just like, I think I understand you're emotional and you're angry about things, but I think the way you're putting it across is a little bit improper. And I just thought that, you responded in a way to create dialogue. My response was just to simply put the rage bait, that's bait, Tom Hardy gif, because that's the way it felt. And I didn't like it. And I thought it was wrong because everyone knows that when it gets to a certain number, that a owner is going to get involved, because it's one thing to be like, hey, we're working within the numbers that we set forth, during this off season and how we're going to spend. I'm talking with Williams. We're going to close that. And, we're still well within budget to keep on working. Okay, whatever. Hey, Steve, I want to give, $50 million a year for 4 years. So $200 million over a 4-year span to Kyle Tucker. I think the owner's going to want to have a conversation, maybe get to know the player, because now we're going to a level. It's like, okay, well, like you said, we're blowing past what the budget was, but I'll hear your plan on this. Let's go about this. And then let's meet him. I'll sell myself. I'll sell the team, and maybe we can close it. That's normal.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. So why people think it just comes back to, Stearns can't do anything. Like, no, you are so misguided and lost. You've lost the cause here. That's not what it is. It's a team effort.
Well, and the other thing that I tweeted, I apologize for just like rehashing my tweet, but I'm trying to get as much of my opinions on this Kyle Tucker saga as possible in the truncated amount of time that I've been on the show here today. But the other part of it is just Steve Cohen's existence in and of itself. I mean, this is a guy who is wildly successful in his chosen profession. Do you get to be the level of success that Steve Cohen has reached in his other endeavors by being a guy who says, oh, you know what? I'll pay a general manager, I'll pay a president of baseball ops $10 million a year, knowing full well that I'll have to babysit him. Like, that's insane. You don't get to the level of businessman and money maker and rainmaker, whatever the hell you want to say about Steve Cohen, whatever you want to call him. You don't get to that level by making those kinds of foolhardy decisions. In fact, the opposite is true. And I said this on the show probably 2 weeks ago. I just randomly was listening to Mike Francesa's podcast, and it's the truth, where he's like, look, Steve Cohen is the type. Okay, listen, Cohen. All right, let's talk about Cohen. Okay, he's the type of guy. Okay, he empowers you. All right, he hires a guy. He says, "Okay, this is your team. This is your show. All right," and until it's not. All right, and that's it. And then one day you're fired. So he gives you enough rope, okay, that just hang yourself with. And that's what he said. And it's the truth, though. He's gonna give you the keys to the city. You run the team, and if it doesn't work, my patience is gonna run out, and you're gonna get fired. That's how this works. Steve Cohen does not want to sit in the negotiation room for Luke Weaver, with all respect due to Luke Weaver. He does not want to sit in the negotiation room for Jorge Polanco. He sets a budget, and Stearns operates within that budget. Signs, does whatever he like you said. Hey, we're just checking it. Yeah, plenty of room left in the budget. We signed Devin Williams. Okay, dope, great, wonderful. But for a deal like this, hey, Big Steve.
Yeah, Big Steve. We're thinking about something. What do you think?
I got an ask for you. We didn't think this guy, they were talking 400 million. They were talking 500 million. They were talking, 12 years, 10 years. I didn't even bring it up. But now I'm thinking maybe 200 million for 4 years. What do you think? Like, that's how that's going. Aunt Rivera, pretty solid Francesa impersonation. Can I hire you for birthday parties? I don't do parties. Okay.
The funniest thing I will say
I'll be in
about
Saratoga. Okay.
the funniest thing about Francesa is we did I think it was Bar A, Jersey Shore, years ago. We went dressed as
Barre. Okay.
we went dressed in like NWO style cutoffs, but it said Mongo World Order, and we did that, and then we took a picture with them. But the weirdest thing about it, and me and my friends still laugh about it to this day, is that man did not say a single solitary word to anybody unless there was a microphone in front of him. Like, that's the only time you heard him speak. I thought it was just crazy how he would not say a word to anyone. It was just like not knowing where to put his hands in pictures and just smiling with those big teeth. But he would not say a single word to anyone until the microphone was on and he was in front of the crowd. That was the only time that he spoke. So I always thought that was wild, but that's just a little side Francesa story.
I say this as somebody who worked, like, you know, I'm doing stand up and doing a lot of stuff in entertainment around a lot of different personalities of people who are like, you know, they come to life on stage and then off stage, they're very like socially awkward and things like that. It doesn't really surprise me also because how old is Francesa? 70 or something like that.
Right.
Like, he's old. He's of a time where like people pretend that autism didn't exist. Right. Like people pretend that being on the spectrum didn't exist. And I'm not saying that to make light of it. Like, I'm saying it very literally. Like, he's of a time, they're like, my generation, we didn't have no autism. You sure, bro? Because that sounds a little bit like you sound a little spectrum-y right now. You sound like all you wanted. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where to put my hands. I'm super awkward. I don't talk to people unless the mic's in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. But yeah, so it surprises me, but it doesn't surprise me. I've never met him, but I think he is spot on to just bring it back full circle. I think he's spot on about Cohen and the mentality that Cohen has and who Cohen is. Yeah, Mike is 71. There you go. So
Armand fact checking first.
I love that.
I love it.
Couple things here. Lazy Mary, it's $250 million deal. The owner should be in the negotiations. I mean, honestly, Lazy, like, I want to print this out and just like hold it to the camera anytime somebody says something to the contrary. It's just so factual and accurate. Armand, it's the owner's money. They're in the know and they give the approval or reject it. Like, it's that simple. This is not brain surgery, guys.
This is not hard. It's very cut and dry.
Of course.
We're just choosing to be angry just to be it's contrarian just to be contrarian.
Absolutely. Game for War says, can Kyle Tucker play first base for us? He looks like a first baseman. He does kind of physically look like a first baseman. Ibby, if I'm not mistaken, Kyle Tucker has played some first base in his professional career. I don't know that he's played it at the major league level, but I'm pretty sure Kyle Tucker has played first base in the minor leagues at some point. I don't think that's going to be the plan.
No,
but I'm just saying, I don't think it's, he does look like a first baseman. No, he like physically, Kyle Tucker looks like a first baseman. So I do agree with that. I'm sure Armand will fact check us.
Big lanky guy. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Ethan saying he has played first base in the majors, and Lazy Mary saying, didn't he play first base with the Astros a little bit? So there you go. I wasn't sure. I don't watch the Astros like that.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if he ever did. I didn't think he did, but
I know it at some point in his career he has. So there you go.
Lazy Armand.
Armand, get on it. Get on it. Come on. I do like this, Ibby. I think you talked about this. Armand said, John, what's the pivot if Tucker signs with the Blue Jays? Did you guys talk about this earlier?
I talked about it from a standpoint of saying that I didn't think that they would pivot to Bellinger. I think that they are out on Bellinger. If anything, from a bat standpoint, I thought trade, but if anything, they would go the route that the Red Sox just went by, not getting a hitter and then opting for the pitcher. That's where I think a potential Framber deal could come into play. If there is that type of pivot, that was my idea.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that, thank you, Armand. Tucker, 4 games at first base, no starts. So just very, very minimal time jumping in, playing first base. Thank you for that. Ibby, I tend to agree. I think the pivot is still to get a bat and a pitcher. I think the Mets plan right now, and if they do this, everyone better eat a giant fucking crow sandwich. You should eat Pete Crow Armstrong. That's how big of a crow you should eat. Like, pause. No, you should, like, if they get Kyle Tucker and Freddie Peralta, which I think is their plan.
I think so too.
Ruben Tybee said it before. I'll do backflips because I said I would do one backflip for each player, one on this show and one on Walk Off Whiskey. They should, like, if that, I think that's their plan. And I think that would be the ultimate offseason. I think it would change the entire perspective of where the Mets team is. That's what I think their plan is. That's what I think their goal is. Let's see if they can execute it. If they can't get Tucker, then I think maybe that plan changes a little bit because maybe they do spend the money on Framber. They go, 30 some odd $1 million a year over like 3 years. They get Framber, and then maybe they try to trade for the outfielder. Maybe they trade, like, it's not going to be as sexy, right? Because maybe that outfielder is Luis Robert Jr. High upside play, but I don't know if that is enough to be as sexy. So I think plan A has got to be Tucker and Peralta. Plan B is probably Framber Valdez and Luis Robert. Framber Valdez, maybe we re-engage and see if the Red Sox are serious about not trading an outfielder. I don't know. I don't know what plan B is, but I know this, Ibby. It's not as good as plan A. And it's not as straightforward as plan A. Which is why I think they're all in on Kyle Tucker.
Same. I the only thing that scares me, it's the one thing, but I'm still heavy favorite that we can land them, is if the Jays just come in and then finally cave in this last sprint, if you will, to the finish line. They've been steadfast probably this entire time, and now this happens. I think that would be the only cause for concern if they say, look, we're gonna cave, we're gonna give you the decade-long deal that you want, and we're gonna up the AAV from 33, 34 a year to 38, 39 a year, maybe even 40 a year. Then he gets to the point where he gets exactly what he wants. Like, will they go to those lengths? It's neither here nor there. I don't know, but that's the way that they win. Will they go there? Is this going to be the time where they finally convince an outside sourced player, meaning not Vlad Guerrero, to take their money? Will they do it? Will they partner that with a huge $500 million contract of Vlad? I don't know. Are they comfortable giving up, the entire draft, if you will, to land this player because they would have signed both Cease and Tucker? Like, we'll see. But I still think the Mets are very much in here, and I still think that they're hell-bent on winning. And I've always said, Steve Cohen's a winner. If he wants something, he's going to win. And I think that you pair that with a player that David Stearns has identified as a piece that can ultimately help this team moving forward and reach its potential ultimate goal. I think that that's a recipe for success. That's why I feel so good about this.
Shout out Armand with really deep dive stats here. Kyle Tucker, minor leagues, 11 games at first base, 9 starts in 2019 for AAA Round Rock, and then says 0 errors at first base for Kyle Tucker at AAA. Again, I don't. So
you're saying Tucker you're saying Tucker has more experience at first than Polanco. Interesting.
Yes, apparently so. Lazy Mary said, look at that, Armand. He's already a better first baseman than Pete Alonso. As Ibby almost does a spit take. I want to bring this up from Blanco. I'm not sure if I've seen this commenter handle before. So if you are new to the show, welcome, Blanco. If you are not new to the show, we apologize. It's hard to keep tabs on everybody along the way, but shout out to you for the question. Especially because of what the question represents, it looms a little larger. The Mets never leak anything. I think this is just leverage from the Tucker team. What do you guys think? Ibby, Blanco poses this. A lot of people have said this. The reason why I will push back on this is because of the size of the deal. That's always going to get leaked. Anytime there's we're giving Juan Soto the biggest deal ever. We're giving Yamamoto the biggest offer ever. What? Kyle Tucker, $50 million in AAV. That stuff is always going to come out from the players, team, and stuff like that. So I do think that's where it's coming from. And maybe it is being used a bit as leverage. But I also think we're just in the end game now, to quote Dr. Strange. Like, this stuff starts to leak out the closer you get to a decision. And right on cue, we hit 2,000 eyes on the show. I think that's a new
most
high
ever.
watermark for us.
That's a new high
That is
watermark. That's the most ever.
Ever for us. Shout out to the 2,000 people watching me and Ibby, and earlier Ibby and Keith Raad, when I was dealing with stuff, do our thing. Shout out to each and every single one of you. If you haven't subscribed to the show, please subscribe to the show here on YouTube, on our Substack, or on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. Anyway, I do think, Ibby, there is something to be said about just the finality of this. Like, this deal is gonna happen with Tucker and someone today, tomorrow, Saturday. You know, like, it's not gonna go much longer. And I think that's why this is being leaked now.
Usually when things are close, stuff starts to come out. Is it a potential leverage play? Of course. I mean, you can say, I mean, any way you want to look at it, you can make an argument. Would I be shocked if this wasn't leaked with the intentions of showing that, you know, like we just heard recently how the Red Sox were not of, you know, a stance of believing Scott Boras, where he said, "Hey, I got this offer from the Cubs." And they were like, "No, you don't. We're staying where we are." And then lo and behold, he had the offer from the Cubs, and then he's no longer a Boston Red Sox. He's a Chicago Cub. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is something from, you know, the agent side who maybe relayed this message to the Blue Jays and said, "Hey, Mets are offering 4 years at, you know, $50 million a year, $200 million over 4 years with opt-outs. If you want this player, you got to give us the years and you got to up the AAV. If you give us the 10 years and you bump it to 40 a year, he's yours." Like, I wouldn't be shocked if that's what the conversation truly is. And I wonder if this team, as all in as they are, I don't know if they're willing to go to that length, because they might look at it and say, if we bow out of this and we miss, we can pivot and we could still get Bo. We can bring back Bo. Like, I mean, that wouldn't shock me either. I know that the Phillies are in on Bo. A lot of people are trying to, you know, say that's the team he's going to end up at. But I wouldn't be shocked if that was the situation here, where it's just the agent of Tucker trying to let the Jays know, like, I'm not bullshitting you here. Like, this has legs. And if you don't wake up, you're going to lose this player. Like, either play ball like we want you to, or we're out. Like, that wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't.
I think there are two instances of a team being, or two different kinds of ways that a team can be used for leverage. And I think that it really depends on the seriousness of the team that is being used, right? So when the Mets lock in on someone in the Steve Cohen era, they get the guy, unless that player truly wants to be elsewhere and that other team will match. You already mentioned Yamamoto. The Mets, though, did the thing that they thought they had to do, which was $75 million more than the Dodgers. He took that deal. He ran to the Dodgers. Will you match it? They said yes. If the Dodgers say no, Yamamoto's a Met.
Yep.
Now, these deals are a little different because they're not going to be a 1-for-1. So do I think Tucker's team is using the Mets offer for leverage? Yes. But I don't think they're using it for leverage like, we don't even want this deal. We want Toronto's deal. I think it was put out in the media the way that it was because it's like, hey, Toronto, Remember when we met with you at your spring training facility a month and a half ago? Remember when everybody's like, wow, it's a foregone conclusion. Kyle Tucker's going to Toronto. Even now, people are arguing with me over the last 2 days. It'd be on Twitter in my mentions. They're like, well, why would Tucker take even $200 million if he has $400 million on the table? Is $400 million on the table? Is the $400 million offer in the room with us right now? Because that's my response. Yeah. My response is we're hearing, yeah, the Blue Jays are the most likely to give that deal. Okay, but have they? Because if they've offered it, he's a Toronto Blue Jay. So they obviously have not offered that. And I think what's happening is Tucker's team is saying, hey, Kyle's tired of sitting out there. He's got $50 million a year on the table. I know it's for a shorter term, but if you guys want him, it's time to talk. Otherwise, we're just taking the $50 million a year. Now, I know there's been some speculation that maybe there's deferrals in there, but Ibby, the Mets have not made a huge habit of deferring money.
Nope.
And I could see
Here's your
them
money. Yeah.
Straight cash, homie.
Yeah.
Steve
Real
Cohen
worth,
has
real value. Here you go.
Steve Cohen has paintings more valuable than this contract in his house. And you don't get to pay for those year over year. There's no Shopify for a $200 million painting. There's no layaway. You got to write that check. Steve Cohen can write this check right now. So I don't think there's deferrals in this deal. Or if there are, maybe that's the last thing the Mets are holding back. Maybe they say, you know what? Okay, yeah, go see what Toronto says. We got more wiggle room. And then they say, hey, you know those deferrals? Forget about it. How about $250 million for 5 years, no deferrals, 2 opt-outs?
It's why, like, I was so confused when I laid out my hypothetical yesterday of a deal that was short-term for the Mets, $4,200 versus a longer-term deal but lower AAV from Toronto. And I had someone come into my mentions, and it was a cordial back and forth, nothing vitriol or anything like that. It was fine, but like they were going at me because they were like, that's a disingenuous offer that you put out there. Like, first of all, it's a scenario, and this is why I think it might be that. And they're like, the Jays definitely have like $350 to $380 million on the table. I was like, if that was the case, this player would be signed already.
Yeah,
he would be. We wouldn't be having this conversation. He would be signed. Like, you don't haggle over the smallest of money when you already have eclipsed $350 million. I think he said 350 over 8. What does that equate to? 350 divided by 8, 43.75 a year. Like, you're going to haggle over that? Like, I don't know if they would. I really don't.
Armand said something similar. The Jays offer is reported long-term. No details have been leaked. In my opinion, they're at 42, 43 in AAV. If they went to 47, I think Tucker would sign. That's just Armand saying his piece, his opinion, and he says so there. Ibby, I'm with you. I disagree with Armand here. I think if you're getting a long-term deal, let's just say it's 8 years or more. If it's 8 years, $40-something million a year, he would take it. They don't have $40 million on the table. I don't think that the Blue Jays have put $40 million on the table.
That's why I went lower.
If they did, I think he would take it.
That's why I said I think they were trying to stretch out the years, but have the lower AAV and hopes that he would accept term as opposed to overall cash. But like, because they felt that the market crashed and maybe we can get him for under $300 million, which is what I've been saying on the show. If the market crashed, that's where they were going to try to go. But I don't think that they were expecting the Mets to come in and offer him $50 million a year up front. Like, I don't think that they were expecting it.
And that's why this is such a savvy deal for the Mets. And that's why it's a competitive offer, even though the Stearns naysayers and the Mets haters are all going to scoff at the years and say it's not competitive. It is competitive when you look at a team like Toronto trying to play this market out, Ibby, and saying, oh, yeah, well, we thought it was going to be, $450. We're going to push it all the way down to $350, right? We're going to give you $35 a year for 10 years or whatever. And Tucker's team is like, well, that's not great. We have $100 million less than that on the table for half the time. That's why it's a competitive offer, because yeah, you want the length. All of these guys want the term of their deal. They want to have to, especially some guys don't want to do free agency more than once. They like living in a certain place. They don't want to have to go through it. And it wouldn't surprise me if Tucker's that kind of guy. But if you'd be foolhardy, forget about the term. You'd be insane to not take half the money in less or more than half the money in some cases in under half the years. Like, it's just stupid. It's too lucrative. It's too much money over too short a time to say no.
And bringing it back to what we just said, we have seen players 31, 32, 33, Kyle Schwarber's, situation 34 years old, that if they perform, they still were able to land $150 million deals. And based off the information that's been put out about how, teams look at contracts, if it was 3 years, this is what an agent likes, because he can then still use the comps from 3 years back to compare for a player to try to cash in yet again, which is why all of this, when you put it all together, if you just take a minute to look at it, it does make sense. It all comes down to, does this player want to bank on himself here, which I've brought up before on the show. Does this player believe that he can bank on himself in New York to do it? Batting behind Juan Soto did wonders for Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso, proven player. Pete Alonso, proven player in New York. Can Kyle Tucker do it here? That's the question that Kyle Tucker has to ask himself. But he can say, if I have Juan Soto in front of me, I think I'm going to be able to do pretty damn well for myself. And I want to bank on myself. I'm going to take this money and I'm going to cash out again. Like, I could see it. I truly can.
And listen, Soto, like, Kyle Tucker's played with some great players, Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Bregman. Soto is on a different level than all those guys. And he's the guy, he'll take walks and get on in front of you, and then you do it. He's not a selfish guy like that. We'll get out of here in a second because we've gone over 2 hours. We were hoping that maybe there was a signing we could talk about. Maybe it would break during the show. It'll probably break, 9 or 10 minutes after we're done.
Probably.
Ethan, though, this is a good point. I don't know if you talked about this before I jumped in. Tucker is a Florida guy. He's from Tampa. I believe he still lives in Tampa or thereabouts. Does he want to do spring training in Arizona if he's a Dodger? Both the Mets and the Jays are training in Florida. I think that is a factor. Also, just New York is closer to Florida than Toronto. It's closer to Florida than certainly Los Angeles. That's a major factor. Shout out Blanco, who says, new listener from Brooklyn, actually from Puerto Rico. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, Brooklyn. Shout out to Puerto Rico. I'm from Brooklyn.
We're Brooklyn at. We're
Brooklyn at. And Ibby, last thing to comment on. I don't know if you said this as well in the first half, and I apologize for not knowing.
Okay.
Truman says there's no good free agents coming up. So
talked about that last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if Kyle Tucker signs a deal where he can opt out after this season, he'd be the best free agent on the board again. No qualifying offer, maybe not coming off of 2 injury-plagued years, coming off of a great year. He's going to get paid by the Mets or by someone. Or he's going to get paid.
Or, as like I mentioned to Keith at the start of the show, I feel like they're not going to make this offer unless it's an opt-out after year 2. But also, newsflash, 2 years from now, free agency, still not pretty. Kyle Tucker re-enters that in 2 years, still the top guy out there. If you have 2 years worth of healthy Kyle Tucker with numbers put up behind Juan Soto, you can still cash out. You just made $100 million. Odds are you're going to go back out there. You can probably get and net another 200 somewhere, 200 plus somewhere. It all adds up in the end. Can still get, he can still have his cake and eat it too at some point. So it is possible.
He absolutely can. And again, the first thing I said when I jumped onto this show late, and I apologize to you and everybody watching for being late, is that the 2 things that are preventing Kyle Tucker from getting that long-term deal that he wanted, expected, and quite frankly, for the type of player he is, probably deserves, is the qualifying offer and the fact that he's coming off of 2 injury-plagued seasons. Both bone fractures, by the way, which can happen to anybody, doesn't mean he's injury prone, but to re-enter the market in a year or 2 where you're still the best free agent available after spending a year with Juan Soto, putting up massive numbers and not having a qualifying offer, dude will get paid. 2,085 people watching us, high water mark for our show. We appreciate each and every single one of you. Ibby, before we go, 2 questions, short version. Do the Mets sign Kyle Tucker, in your opinion? Does it happen before we record or scheduled to record again next week?
Kyle Tucker will sign this week. So it's going to happen before we record next week, which maybe brings forth an emergency episode. We'll see. Kyle Tucker is going to sign with the New York Mets. It is going to happen. My King Tuck is going to happen. I've been talking about this long enough on this damn show. Everyone knows that I like Kyle Tucker. If you've been with us for longer than a week, longer than a year, longer than 2 years, I've mentioned his name enough. People know that I like him. I would love nothing more than to watch two of my favorite hitters in baseball hitting back-to-back. Scratch that. Three of my favorite hitters in baseball hitting back-to-back-to-back.
Back.
And God, I believe that Kyle Tucker is coming to New York. I am willing this into existence. I am staying positive the same way and banking on the same feelings that I had when it came to Juan Soto. Kyle, come on down. Your crown awaits.
I just stumbled upon a really funny, I think a funny tweet from like 2 hours ago from the account is Nick's Memes. And it says, breaking, after a tragic series of miscommunications caused by the Verizon outage, the New York Mets have signed John Harbaugh to be their left fielder, while the New York Giants have hired Kyle Tucker to be their head coach, with a picture of both guys. That is very, very, very funny to me. Taking advantage of this weird Verizon outage that I guess is happening all over the tri-state area. Anyway, Ibby, I think 100% Kyle Tucker signs before our next scheduled show together, Til Mets Do Us Part, which would be next Wednesday. I think there's a good chance he signs before the next show on this channel, which would be Walk Off Whiskey, which would be Friday. I think you and I will be trying like crazy to do an emergency show to talk about it.
Yes.
I want to lean into your positivity because it's not to say that I don't feel positive. I do. I feel like the Mets are going to get this done. But this is very similar to me about the Juan Soto situation, because I always felt like the Mets needed to do it so badly that I didn't want to get my hopes up. And so I was cautiously optimistic. You were fully optimistic and you got me over the hump and you wound up being right. And so I feel the same way. I'm very cautiously optimistic. So I'm going to let Ibby take the lead on this. I'm going to Jesus take the wheel. I believe I want to believe. I believe in Joe Hendry. I want to
say his name
and he
will appear. Yeah.
So that's, I think for sure he signs in the coming days, maybe even in the coming hours. But I want to really believe that he's a Met because the Mets need him. The Mets need him, and I want him, and he's damn good. And when this offseason started, I never thought they were going to have a snowball's chance in hell to sign him. So that's my spiel. 21-12. 2,100 and now 13 people watching our little show here on Til Mets Do Us Part. So as we get out of here, if you are new to the show, we do this every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. We go for about 2 hours. Obviously today, there's a lot of chaos. We had a great guest, Keith Raad from the Mets radio booth and also contributor on SNY. He was with Ibby in the first half. I could not be here. Great interview. Go back, listen to it. I jumped in here in the second half. Me and Ibby did our thing, kind of the standard show that you get. We don't have guests each and every single week. So again, if you are a new viewer to the show, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing a giveaway shortly to one lucky subscriber. It is an autographed Billy Wagner with the Hall of Fame inscription. It's kind of like a little disc that you can wall mount or put on a shelf. It's wonderful. We're going to be giving that away soon. So subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow us across social media. If you search Til Mets Do Us Part, you will find us in all the places: TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Substack. Subscribe on Substack. If you can't watch this show on YouTube, you can listen to the show wherever you get your podcast. Episode drops a couple hours, usually later that night from when we do the live recording here. That's on Spotify, it's on Amazon Music, and it is on Apple Podcasts. Follow, write reviews, rate us, subscribe, leave comments. It all helps the algorithm. It helps us to continue to grow and continue doing what we do. And what we love to do is talk to you about the New York Mets. Darren Rivera, great stuff. Simon and Garfunkel.
Still don't get it, but whatever. I still don't get why I was called Garfunkel today. And if that's a bad thing, I don't know what that means. But
I don't think it is. And we don't have time to get into why, but next week, remind me.
I will.
Remind me next week about the Simon and Garfunkel conversation, because a lot of people use it as as an insult, and I don't think it is one. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it next week. I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Til Mets Do Us Part. We'll see you next week. Go get Kyle Tucker.